Hello, my name is John Parke, President of Leadership Synergies, and I'm here to talk to you about strategy today and strategic planning and strategic thinking. I just love strategy. It's so exciting. It is what I wake up to do every single day because it keeps me curious as a person. I'm interested in the outside world more because I'm thinking about strategic opportunities and how to gather information and think in bigger and broader terms. That's what I love about strategy. Today, we're going to talk about something called a step analysis, which is a form of environmental scanning that's done in strategic planning. Now, in the United States, they call it a step analysis, which is an acronym for social, technological, economic, and political trends. In Europe, they call it a pest analysis, so they just changed the words around. They're the same thing, but they just call it something different. I kind of like the European version just because a little bit of a pest means that you're kind of shaking things up and considering things from different perspectives. But whether you call it a step or whether you call it a pest, it really doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But really, what is a step analysis? It's used in strategic planning. If you watch my SWOT analysis video, you'll see it kind of goes together. I always like to do strategic planning from the big picture and then drill down. So macro to micro. So step analysis, I typically do when I'm doing facilitation before I do a SWOT analysis. I want to start with the outside world looking in, which is a step analysis. And then I can do a SWOT analysis, which is the inside world, inside the business looking out. But really, what is a step analysis? It's a hermeneutic. And that's a method or a theory of interpretation. That's what researchers use. Now, in this case, I want you to think like a researcher, because that's really what you'll be doing with a step analysis with your team. It's really an approach through which researchers can achieve agreement between three key areas: philosophy, and that is the theoretical basis of a particular branch of knowledge or experience, philosophy. And then there's methodology. That's kind of the justification for using a research method. And then there's the method. So that's the tool or the approach you use. Like in this particular case, I like to do a team interaction approach with a step analysis. And that's kind of the method that I would use in order to be able to gather the information. And so think of a step as a strategic tool or a method to understanding your marketplace. And you can think of it as uncovering areas of growth or decline, your business position, your potential, and the possible direction your business might take in the future. And those are all such exciting things. So what's the logic or the proof? Well, if you watch the video I did on the SWOT analysis, you use a very similar approach. As a matter of fact, I like to do them together, like I said earlier. So you can get your team together in a room with a flip chart and some markers or a whiteboard. And basically, I'll break the flip chart into 4 different quadrants. So in this case, it's social, technological, economic, and political. And really what we're looking for are trends in each one of those 4 quadrants. So let's start with social. So you want to ask your team to list up 8, 10, or 12 different things that are happening in society. And here's the key, that are likely to impact your business in, let's say, the next 12 to 24 months. I like to make it time-bound so we can understand the effects. So once you do social, some of those social trends, then I like to switch over to technological trends. What are the things happening in technology today that are likely to affect you and your organization in, let's say, the next 12 to 24 months? And then you think about economy, economic. So what are some of the economic things that are happening that are going to affect your organization? And then P for political. What are the things that are happening in the political side of the world that are likely to affect your organization? So I've got social, technological, economic, and political, and I have those different 4 quadrants all built out. And let's say I have 8 to 12 different things that surface from the team conversation in each one of those quadrant areas. After I've done that, I'd like to get the team back together again and go back and prioritize, let's say the top 3 in each one of the different categories. And the reason is I really want to focus the conversation down and down and down into the most important things. And remember, this is a team exercise, so they're all participating and giving their feedback and their thoughts and suggestions. So it can be really helpful to be able to gather the information, but then the step of prioritization really helps you to focus on what's important and how to use that information in a strategic way. And that's exactly the next step. You want to take that information that now has been prioritized and use it to feed the strategic planning beast. So it's kind of like if you're able to go into your strategic planning conversations, you're able to say, well, these are things happening in society that we have to be able to prepare for, address, and react to. And technology, and the economy, and politics. And once you've narrowed those things down, you have everything you need in order to have a really rich conversation about where your strategy as an organization should go in the future. So if you couple that with a SWOT analysis, then you really have a lot of information to be able to begin and shepherd the strategic planning process. You can act as the facilitator of that process with that information and that knowledge. Now remember, when you get the team together, explain the objective. They're going to fill out the different categories. It's current state, so it's not what you want in the future, it's what's happening today. And you want to have them avoid being sarcastic. And that's just because that oftentimes can derail a strategic conversation and take it to a place that you can't get it back. And so, make sure that you lay the ground rules early in the conversation so you have the outputs that you want that really enable the right kind of conversation to move forward. So that's the concept of a step analysis or a pest analysis, depending what you want to call it. And really, what I'd like you to think about now is how all of that information that you'll be gathering can tie into the strategic planning process. It's the joining of strategy and science together. So in the science side of the conversation, steps of the scientific method, how people go about doing science, really fall in some basic categories. They make an observation. Well, you're making an observation when your team is putting together a step analysis. And then you ask questions. Well, really, those interesting things that came out of it. So what are some of the questions that we might have based on what we just learned from this exercise? And then you're going to form a hypothesis, which is really, think of it as a supposition or a starting point for further investigation. And then you want to make a prediction. Well, if we went there in the future, what would happen? And then you want to do some experimenting, some test driving of your thinking. Perhaps do a larger research pool of activity to gather even more intelligence to further validate some of the things that you learned in the step analysis and in the SWOT analysis. And then you can begin to test your predictions and analyze some of the results. And that can really, really be empowering because it makes you have a lot of confidence that the direction you're going in has a high probability of success in the future. And then you want to share the results of all that. So get everybody engaged. If you have a board of directors, share the results with them. Share the results with your team members and make sure to communicate that this is done in a collaborative fashion. It's the diversity of the people that are in these conversations. It could be diversity, ethnic diversity, age diversity, geographic diversity, and it also can be their areas of responsibility: marketing, communications, legal, human resources, finance. It's the diversity of the people that are included in these conversations that make the outcome so interesting. It's because when you get that kind of diversity in research, it enables you to have a very good sense of where a larger population may choose to migrate to in the future as far as their behaviors, where they might join, perhaps their buying behaviors and considerations, all kinds of really, really exciting and interesting things. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. It's about a step analysis, social, technological, economic, and political. And watch the SWOT analysis video too, because these two really should go together in the strategic planning process. So if you like this video, please subscribe. And if you have suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover in other videos, go ahead and tell us that. And we'll consider it, and maybe we'll make a video around the topic that you suggest. Thank you very much for listening and participating in the strategic planning process. And this part is you learning how to be a better strategic thinker and facilitate conversations that take your organization to the next level. Thank you.